Quick greetings. Welcome to another video. In the last video, we talked a little bit about the new artwork that is now displayed in subway stations all across the New York City tri-state area. As Indians, I want to say for how we should look at it is that yes, somehow our message is getting out, although we have someone latching on to our birthright, and that someone is a Moor. It's not Caucasian, it's not the Asian, it's not the Spanish. It's the only other man who can snuff us out and represent us and steal our identity. So this artwork, as we saw, it has two men at the top. They're not facing each other. Yet it's supposed to speak to a legacy on an alleged Turtle Island. So we know that they're talking about America. So why is there two representatives that are men representing the people of America? Well, because one of them is actually stealing your birthright. He put himself there instead of you appearing with your family, your wife, your children, as the Americans. So this piece of artwork that we saw, you have to wonder what other countries would, represent themselves with two males that are looking away from each other, opposite ends of the piece of art. Is there some kind of divide? And yes, there is. Again, they're back to back, but they're far apart. One is looking, I guess, toward Mecca, and the other one looking at his birthright being stolen, looking to the west, I guess. So when an Indian sees that, know that your message is getting out, even though you still have one person of all the many races that looks like you, who is standing on your, what he would call square. He talks about standing in squares, yet he won't stand on his own. He wants to stand on yours, Indian, and he claims to be your brother, but he is a brother like Cain was a brother to Abel. He is a brother like Jacob was to Esau. He is not your friend. He is out for what is your birthright. The second part of that video, we got into the Constitution, and that's what I want to start off with today, because it's just going to be a review, because I had an oh my God moment. Because the constitutions I pulled up, it didn't occur to me that the original Constitution did not have the Bill of Rights in it. And that was a source of trouble, because the first Constitution is the continental one. That would be allegedly for the land. And I say allegedly because it can't be for the land if Indians are not involved. So it claimed to be a land jurisdiction, but it had to be a fraudulent one because, again, these are foreigners trying to develop a law of the land that they don't have any right to outside of the doctrine of discovery. And whatever the law of, if they come up with a law of colonization, because I guess the law of colonization would be what they might say, but that law is basically, I'm stealing your stuff, right? So that was my, oh my God moment, because those constitutions they're not posting partial constitution. That first constitution we looked at was the whole constitution. It did not have any amendments. And I just, for some reason, that's not what I recall hearing, because I thought the first constitution had some amendments, but it didn't have anything. And it's very hard to find that original constitution. And in a country like ours, that should be a crime. Where if that's what we're supposed to be built on, you make them all available. But when you Google, this is one case where Google it doesn't really bring up the original Constitution, the Continental Constitution. So what I want to say and what I will do is I'm going to link where I got those constitutions. The website is called constitutionalcommando.com, just like it sounds, constitutionalcommando.com. That website is extremely informative. And it talks about, how originally people were citizens of the state they were born in, not the United States. Okay. But we're not going to go into that right now. I'm going to share my screen because we're going to go over that Constitution one more time, but make it a little bit snappier and get to the point a little bit quicker, because I did have my little aha moment, whatever. Okay. So what the reading showed me, and I hope what it showed you and what you will see again, hopefully today, which is actually tonight. We talk about the Commerce Clause, but I haven't heard much talk about the first mention of Indians, which is in Article 1 here. There's not much explanation of what that's about. And so what we want to do is make it a little more plain, because it's written in the way this Constitution is written. I just think it's a little bit, it's not easy to comprehend what they're saying. When they introduce terms like electors, what is an elector? I mean, we're dealing with citizens, right? And Indians. So what is an elector? It doesn't really say, right? Okay, we're dealing with free persons, I should say. Indians, and this kind of mysterious "we the people," because I someone I recall hearing say that "we the people" is basically Congress. uh, being a separate thing from free, quote unquote, free person. And I just remember hearing that and thinking, huh, some more trickery, you know. But anyway, let's get to it. We'll do it, we'll read again. And again, this is just an attempt to be a little more concise and to the point, and to show that American Indians were not part of the federal system, the federal body politic. You were not represented, so you were not counted. And then when they talk about the commerce, you were supposed to be like a foreign nation dealing with the United States as a foreign nation, but you were doing allegedly to do commerce with them. And I've deduced that the commerce must have been your crops, because that is what these colonizers were about, our crops. And they would proceed to get the profit off of our crops. So boom, there's your commerce. Commerce is what? Your colonizer comes, takes over your crops, and he does commerce, and you become black, and then you get a new citizenship called a United States citizen, and you are property of the District of Columbia, okay, the DC area, the DC, and little by little, you're finding out over time that you're not protected. And Congress, although it has plenary authority over you, you're not a priority. Oh, well, actually, no. Plenary authority is over federal Indians, I should say. We are just, I don't even know what Black people are, but they're not protected in this system that our Indians are trying so hard to keep here, and to breathe life into this dead entity. It's a dead commercial entity. A corporation is a dead entity, okay? I think Indians need to think about a system that can deal with living men and women, and not a system that insists that you must be in the sea jurisdiction to deal with them. No, you will meet me on the land. That is a precedent that Indians have to change. And you stand on your birthright and you change it. They will tell you, no, a man can't deal with a corporation. And we have to, from now on, ask questions. Why? If men and women are working in these dead entities, how come they can't communicate with it? They have to become why? Let's look at that for a minute. When you sign up to work, even work for a corporation, you are waiving your rights, okay? Somewhere in their documents, they are having you waive some or probably all of any rights that you fought for when you were making your Bill of Rights and your Declaration of Independence. We're talking about the foreigner right now. And, we got to make a distinction. All this stuff was for foreign. But I'm saying your system has you waiving your rights. In an American Indian system, what we're going to do, we're not waiving any of our birthright. If we can't do business without waiving our we won't have a constitution. We got to rename our shit, because these words are referring to a colonizer, right? So in our laws, there will be no business that is allowed to have you waive your rights. Why? You work too hard for them. You, especially as an American Indian in America, you have put way too much into getting rights you never got. In your system, it will not be allowed. It will be a crime in our system for any quote unquote business to ask you to waive your rights. When you waive your rights, the corporation or the business that you're in gets to survive after it has committed any kind of offense or indiscretion toward you as an employee. So what they're asking is, if we've messed you up, please agree to not sue us, or please agree that you'll do an arbitration in our under us, something like that. It's like, this is what's wrong with the system. It's a C jurisdiction that's given life to dead entities, and the life it gives to the dead entities then takes your life. How does it do so? Because it takes you off the land, and you cannot call on your God-given birthright. It's asking you to waive them. Okay? So, note to self, in the American Indian system, you will not be allowed to waive your birthright to engage in any business. The business has to conform around you, not the other way around. You do not conform to some dead entity with some puppet master hiding behind the dead entity, getting what they need to get done by having you have no rights. It's like being on a plantation. It's like being on a plantation, and master's telling you, you can't sue me. If you work for me, you are not allowed to sue me like this. You can sue me like that. You know, in other words, you can take me to here, but you can't take me over there. They're telling you how you want to get compensated for whatever wrong they did, but they're gonna make it where whatever I do ain't gonna be wrong. You while you working here, you are a slave. Okay. So now let's look at how we were tricked, as always, into being under the federal government, when we were, even the Constitution is telling us that we're not. We're going to get right to it. And yeah, I had to do this again because this is critical. This is critical. Because when we set up our courts, this is what we're going to talk about. How we were grabbed into a system that proceeded to drag our ass in it, knowing that it didn't have the jurisdiction, knowing that it grabbed jurisdiction without disclosure. Duress. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, we, the people, are not American Indians. These are the immigrants that came here and fought for their freedom from an oppressive king, James, to be exact. Okay. Well, any of those kings, okay? But he was the one that started this mess, okay? We, the people, it's not Indians. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. So they come into your land and they trying to make a union. Establish justice, well, okay. Ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to themselves and their offspring, their people. Okay, this is about someone coming and they're just planting themselves on your land, and now they're talking about what they're gonna do. Okay, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. This is totally and completely for foreign entity. Okay. Okay. Article 1, Section 1. So now we notice they go quickly to their government system. Okay. So like we did before, let's just get right into it. Article 1, Section 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. Section 2. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by all the people of the several states. And the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. Okay. No person shall be a representative. So they're talking about their how they're going to go about getting representatives in Senate and the House of Representatives. Okay. That's Congress. Okay. Congress is the Senate and House of Representatives. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Okay. Now, here's where Indians find out that in this system, you were not counted, so therefore you were not represented. And this is what really hit me. Like, whereas you read something and you didn't comprehend it the first time. Now it's being revealed, okay? The ancestors are showing us how we got done by a colonizer system, okay? Now, let's go. Here's where Indians find out that they're not represented. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union, according to the respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding. Okay, so the representatives and taxes are according to the number of people in the state. So they're saying that number of people that's going to determine direct taxes and representation in Congress will consider. See, I just did not, I never got this. And I think many of our people don't get it, although they say they designed the system. Well, how come you don't understand what the Constitution is saying in order to know how we got messed over? It's because the Moors have been guiding you through this, and they're misleading you. They are misleading you, okay? So representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned. I want to say determined. Okay, I think it's just a representatives and direct taxes shall be determined among several states, which may be included within this union, according to the respective numbers. It's a numbers game, right? Which shall be termed. So now they're going to tell you who's going to make up that number that they count to be represented in Congress and to tax. Okay, who are they going to levy taxes? It's going to be determined by the number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, 3/5 of all other persons, excluding Indians not taxed. Now, I think when we read it that way, putting Indians last, it just makes it, for me, I get it a little better. But what they're saying, how they are going to determine who's represented in their Congress which is the Senate and House of Representatives, that's what makes up Congress. Who's going to be in that number? It's going to be free persons, those bound to service, 3/5 of all other persons in that state, but they will be excluding Indians who are not taxed. So that is the first mention of Indians. And what this mention has to do with, we'll say it again because it's I'm learning as well. Okay? No one teaches us this. We have to do it ourselves. Your Congress was never supposed to have any Indians represented in it. Why? Because this is not our government. It grabbed us, and as we see, it has used us for its profit. Counting us gives them money or something. It is money, though, because they're taxing your ass when they weren't supposed to. That they would not get if you were not grabbed into their system. This is a corporation, y'all. Your rights never matter when it comes to how much they can make off of you. Now, it's bad enough that you're here for my resources, but now you're actually going to take my wages for a system that is I'm not even supposed to be in. Every Indian should be pissed the fuck off. There, I dropped the F-bomb. When you start being an Indian again, and I'm not talking about a Moorish Indian, and we're going to look at why that's not going to happen. We are not going to be Moors, y'all. You better kiss your Moors goodbye. You're going to have to draw a line in the sand. You're going to be either an Indian or you're going to be a fucking Moor. You will not be both while you're in America. Do that crap somewhere else. Because American Indians have gone far too long without anything of their land in their power. Moors, you're going to have to go to Morocco. You can't live here telling me I am you so that you can be there to grab my birthright when it's up for grabs and claiming that you're me. You want to be my friend or my brother or whatever? Yeah, you're going to do it the right way, though. You're not going to take my birthright like your characters do in your scriptures. So, the first mention of Indians in the original Constitution is only to tell us that we're not represented in Congress. We're not represented in Congress's Senate. We're not represented in Congress's House of Representatives. So if you see a black face in there, they are, and they're Indians, they are working outside of the Constitution. They have joined forces with your enemy, okay? And we all know this. It is abundantly clear that we are not even last priority. How about no priority? But we're going to let our enemy show us the way for real. Now, a lot of Moors are out there whispering in the ears of Indians who don't know the system they built. And I'm sorry, Indians, I'm calling you out, the ones who say that we built this system. I'm calling you out because you have to go to a El Bay to learn how the system works. Why he got you using you as a puppet, saying you built this system, and therefore he's justified in kicking your ass with it. We did not build this system. No nation or uh, body of people or body of men and women sharing a landmass, sharing a birthright, would build a two-system government for two foreigners. They would have those two foreigners go by their system, would not make a special one just for them, like the Moors told us they did. When they said, yes, Amun Hotep, I'm always saying his name now because he's my Moor now. That's the Moor I like to quote, okay? If we're going to talk about Moors, well, let's talk about what they said. We got to find the ones that's making sense. Amun Hotep, El Chavez Bey, the author of America is a True Old World. He's trying to live in two worlds, Morocco and America, Africa and America. But he's given us a lot to think about. I'll hand the brother that much. He said, according to his Washita Indian that he married into, and then they became African, according to the 5 civilized tribes that he's part of, the Moors built this two-system government. So it's a house divided at the gate, two system. It should be one system. So, but they say, okay, but when you're dubious, you have to do things in twos. So you know, you got to have chaos involved, okay? So he said, we built a two-system government for Moors and Europeans. So those people you see in Congress are identifying, at the end of the day, they have to be identifying as Moors because the system is built for Europeans and Moors. So you see Europeans, so where's the Moors at? Then would be the black ones, right? Because it's their system. And they're both fooling American Indians into thinking that we're the Moors, okay? And if they can get us to buy into that crap, that's how the Moors can take our birthright. And if the Moors take our birthright, foreigners are guaranteed a place in America because the Moors will always need the foreigners as a buffer between them and the American Indians while they give us all their lip service lies. They're the dog whisperers. They whisper in your ear, remember, I am you. You're standing on two continents. I'm barely on one, and you got two, like everybody else you invite here. Why are they so entitled as to have two birthrights, and I have none? Oh, Indians are going to learn eventually. Thank you, ancestors. So are we clear now that this system is not built for Indians as by virtue that they're not counted? And we decided and we know that they're talking about the census. How else are you going to get a count without having a census? So the census is for them to decide how many representatives and how much taxes to be a proportion. Okay? And Indians were never part of that. When Indians come into this system, they come in without their Indian identity, and therefore they are wards. They are property. They are black status. They are not protected. They are just here to increase the bag. The bag that is being stolen from them, and they are contributing to that bag that is being held by the foreign entity calling itself a government that is a whole corporation for profit and found a way to cut across your birthright and take out of your wages to support all the foreigners that they're going to bring here while just playing with you. And the foreigners don't have to get injections just so you could put that in your pipe and smoke it. If this ain't a genocide, I don't know what it is. We are threatened with job loss if we don't get a shot. Turn around and the next month or whatever, we letting in some immigrants and they don't have to get it. I thought we were in a worldwide pandemic, though. But people that you're dumping here don't have to get it. Sound like a genocide to me. But we are peaceful Indians, lawful Indians. Lord knows we have enough evidence of what's going on here without even lifting any kind of aggression. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Woo. So the next clause is the commerce clause, which to me is a joke. Indians were never in commerce. Once you became Black, you were a slave in the corporation. So you didn't do commerce. They got somebody else to do. I think I'm pretty convinced once they were able to have the authority of the South, that money went straight to, well, who owns DC? Who is grabbing everybody into that subjugation to a crown and a Vatican? So where's the money going? Do the math. After they get your crops that they were supposed to, it was a commercial contract part, part of the Constitution was about how they were going to regulate commerce between Indians and the settlers, just like they do with foreign nations. Let's look at it. So we're clear, right? That we're not represented in Congress, not supposed to be. Why? Because this is not our government. If this is not our government, why are we talking about voting for Trump? Because we don't know. We don't even know what this country was built on. We're jumping to be in a system that even the Constitution is clearly saying that we're not part of. So if you're going to be an Indian, baby, you got to get out and figure it out. But that's what we're here for, right? That's what, and actually the Moors are going to give us some ideas, although they never intended for us to pick up those clues. They should have just told us if they were our brother. Okay, they should have just told us. But they're steering us into a system that our Constitution says we're not supposed to be in. How come Moors don't know this? The legal experts. How come the legal experts don't read this and come up with what the ancestors are showing me? Let's see it again. Am I seeing something wrong? They're talking about how they're going to stop Congress. Who's going to be represented in Congress? And to do that, they have to count each of the states, the population of each of the states, to find out how many representatives they're going to get or whatever, and how the taxes going to go. When they do that, they don't count Indians. What does that mean? You're not represented. I'm going to keep saying it because it's just, I can't believe that no one figured this out, or they saw it and said, oh, well, the Indians are choosing to be Black, so that's the end of that. So that means the Moors are not for us, because the legal experts that you are, you should have grabbed this. How are you going to represent me and you don't even know what my Constitution say, or you're not telling me to look and find out what it say? So you're not for Indians. Snap out of it. You're being trained to pander to Indians and not be for Indians, but you are experts with your pandering, as if That's just what the government does. It panders to us. I'm going to do this for you. We going to do this for you. We going to do that for you. Years go by. Generations die. And shit ain't still changed. And there's no change. There is no change. I suggest you take a screenshot so you can study it and tell me what you come up with. Maybe you see something else. But I know what I'm seeing. I know what I'm seeing here, y'all. Ancestors finally gave eyes. They're giving out eyes. You better go get some. Go get some. You'd be surprised with your new eyes. Just read it. Keep reading it. Keep reading it. Those Indians that want to vote for Trump, keep reading. The Constitution said we ain't supposed to be in this system. How you voting? Supposed to have your own system, y'all. We're going to quickly look at the Commerce Clause, whatever, blah, blah, because none of this applies to us, right? We go where we're mentioned and keep it pressing. And where we're mentioned, they're saying that we're not part of this. And then they say, well, they're going to regulate the commerce. They lumping us together with foreign nations. That's where we're mentioned. And we're seen as, now, again, the states at that time were like countries, with the governors being like the president. So if we're being lumped together with foreign nations and the states as countries and Indian tribes, that means we're outside. Well, actually, yeah, because the states they were united, but they were still independent. That's why some states had citizenship for Negropeans and some didn't, because they could choose what they had their own system. Each state was like a Africa. It's a different country. So when we're mentioned as if we're one of these different countries, is what I'm trying to say. So they saying that they were here to regulate the commerce with the foreigners and between the several country states and Indian tribes. But here's where we say, well, what land do we have if we were supposed to be in commerce with you? Wouldn't we need land that's completely not part of the United States? And don't tell me about no fucking reservation. Don't tell me about no damn reservation, because that's not what we're talking about. Because in this system, even if you have a reservation, the federal government, if you have anything worth anything on your reservation, like gold in the ground or oil in the ground, the federal government comes, marches onto your reservation. Boom, you don't have that oil. You don't have those precious metals anymore. Would they be able to look at that clause right there, the Commerce Clause, and tell me, would America be able to go to China and do that? A foreign nation? So why do they think that they could do that with Indians? First of all, you're telling me where I can be on my land. There's something wrong with that, y'all. And then when you partial me off to some little part of the land, should I be so favored by my ancestors to have gold or oil or whatever? Again, this bastard calling itself having plenary authority over federal Indians, because this only happens to federal Indians, y'all. They will come in, take your shit, and say, have a good day. This belongs to the federal government. Pay your taxes. Oh, wait, you have a tax exemption. All right, we'll give you that for now. Well, the Constitution says Indians not taxed point blank, period. It's not a tax exemption, y'all. You have to be in their system to be exempt from their taxes. If you're not in their system, you're not taxed, point blank, period. And the sad part is, you know, and I know that people who do read this and understand it, they still have to go with the fraud. But again, yeah, they have to. I think people are shocked when they finally understand the foreigners, I think, are kind of shocked. But what can they do? If Indians don't stand up, what can a foreigner do? They can tell you, but that's they're risking something, right? You as the birthright holder, you got to say something. Oh, it's getting real, y'all. Peacefully real. Because I'm telling you, the fraud is so thick. All you gotta do is call it out, yo. There ain't no bloodshed necessary. Just speak your truth, yo. Tell your family, tell your Indians, tell them all. So this section is talking about, this is section 8. We didn't read it from the top, but talking about Congress having, power to lay and collect taxes, duties. Okay, so when you're in commerce, they might put tax on Indians' goods, right? So they're going to regulate our goods. I would say they should want to pay us top dollar. I mean, you are on my land. You shouldn't want to be trying to cheat me, but we know how they roll, right? Cheat you, baby. You ain't even here as far as I'm concerned. It's about me, the colonizer, yo. You? That's where we at right now, yo. That's where we've been. So this part of the Constitution is talking about how they're going to regulate commerce. A commerce that never happened because we quickly lost our land, called Black, and that was the end of that. Then they took our land, and who do you think is getting paid for all those crops? I went to Virginia. When I tell you all I saw was, for miles, all you see is my ancestors' land producing probably genetically modified corn, but still a whole lot of land. These motherfuckers took that from you, Indians, and who's getting the profit for that? Well, that will be part of our reparation package. Our reparation package. How long they've been stealing from us? If you include the colonization of South America and the islands, Caribbean islands, that's over 500 years. But wait a minute. People that get reparations, they get that for as long as they live. I don't have to count the years, right? That's a lifetime. Let's say it like that. Lifetime reparations. This world won't be right, like Whoopi said. Till you do right by me, ain't no good coming to you. It can't, yo. It can't. They're actually cavorting with a curse on this country, because what you're doing to the indigenous of this country should bring a curse on your ass. And I know it really does, but they have they practice their black magic and shit, and they transfer that shit, and they make that shit revert to us, and we blindly are taking the beating that is not due us, because we so browbeat by their Christ, hoping to get in heaven. They cheated you out of your land. Why should we believe we'll even get to heaven? They probably got a whole system up there too. When we come knocking on that door, like, wait a minute, are you what are you? You can't come up here. Like, how can we trust their religion? So the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. That's DC. And whenever you see the reference to United States and they're not saying several states, I've concluded that that's their way, once again, of taking whatever was supposed to be for the several states is just going to the United States, which is the District of Columbia. So there's the general welfare of the District of Columbia. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. Yeah, but it wouldn't include Indians. Well, actually, yeah, we wouldn't be taxed by them. But I think in commerce, they could put a tax. I mean, why they shouldn't? Because, in other words, yeah, you don't want to hinder what do you call it? Trade between the Indians and the colonizers because they need that food. And so you shouldn't impede on trade, but you did us better. You erased us from the entire equation. And then you took over the operation. That's reparations, yo. What's the gross national product of this country? Okay. Like 99.999% of that goes to American Indians. You're productive and you're making this much and none of it is going to us. This is our land and we don't get none of that. But again, we don't really want their money because they're, again, we got to remember their money is controlled by them. We want a money system that doesn't have a colonizer controlling it because they can fix it where, yeah, with their interest rates and so forth and so on, they could make that money worth doo-doo or little less than doo-doo, So no, we don't want to deal with their money because they're controlling that like a carrot on a string or whatever. So really, we tell them what we want. How do we want to get? We don't like just how some of these foreign nations they don't say. Some of them say they don't. Was it Dubai that said they don't want these U.S. dollars? No, if you want to do business with us, this is what we want: gold. Well, whatever we want. So as a sovereign, you don't have to deal with any colonizer dollars that put you in debt and you got to pay it back because every time you use a dollar, it's like you owe them two because Federal Reserve is a for-profit corporation, stuff like that. We can make our own money and they would have to take it because why? You are on my land. How at odds do you want to be with me when you're on my land? Now you want to be all difficult and all that, then go home. Then I don't have to deal with you on my turf. I didn't tell you to come here. You came here and you can easily go. You're not wanted because of what you've done. We don't trust you. There's no trust there, but that was all because of you, because we have a constitution that we're reading right now. And clearly this system, if it knows what a constitution is, I mean, you guys brought the whole idea of a constitution here, but you don't seem to know how to go by it. I was supposed to be an Indian, not taxed. I wasn't supposed to be in your government. I was supposed to have my own government, and we were supposed to be like as if China was dealing with America. That's how it was supposed to be between Indians and the federal government. But it's really odd because there's something wrong with that too, because you're here using my resources, acting like you're a foreign country, but you're using my stuff. I should be entitled to my stuff. And as long as you're here using it, you have to compensate me. This is the hardest thing for an entity like this to do. When it becomes such a corporation that all it sees is profit, it it doesn't know how to give what it stole. So that's why Indians going to get a credit for everything. All your expenses paid. You're going to create a card where this system has to honor it because you're a sovereign on your land. And we're going to show them the card, right? And this is where they know, oh, it's free for you. Okay. All expense paid card. It's not a black card. You might call it a copper card. We might accept that. Well, we're going to call it what we want it to be. But, in their system, they might say, oh, that's that card they're using again. Damn it. And see, Indians, what's going to happen is all these profits that they made off of misclassifying us, gone. They don't have a right to hold our people in a lesser jurisdiction. It's genocide. It's genocide. We have a right to not be genocided, especially on our own fucking land. So we are mentioned in the same sentence as foreign nations because when it comes to this government, we are foreign to them, although they came here and they're supposed to respect us as a foreign nation. It's truthfully, it's like Russia moving to China and trying to convince China that, well, you got to respect me as I'm using your resource. No, you got to respect me. In fact, you got to compensate me. Why are you here? Oh, you thought this was going to be free. That's why you here? You're saying I'm a foreign nation, but you're here as a colonizer. We didn't ask you to come. We didn't agree to this. We had no choice because the doctrine of discovery said that we was heathen if we didn't believe in your religion. Oh boy, y'all. This is a mess, y'all. This is a mess. Now, you know what it is? You almost feel how reluctant they are to compensate us, but what choice do you have? You committed the crimes you committed against us, the pirating us, the non-disclosure in contracts that we didn't even know what the fuck we were getting in. And you knew the whole time because it ends up with you profiting. So it wasn't a mistake, right? So we've used this hour to see the two parts in the original Constitution that was not. This was okay. The thing about this Constitution is that is the Constitution where Congress was willing to be part of the Union. I mean, I'm sorry, the South was willing to be part of the Union, but at some point the South was like, "Oh no, we ain't part of it," and the North came down on them like a freaking bird of prey and made sure that they were under duress to rejoin the Union. Now the North wanted them back, as I said, but then the North, as bad as they needed the South for them all them resources, they gave them like they put a demand on them to include the 14th Amendment. So that's how you should know that the South, they were made part of this union under duress and duress. And they were forced to accept, before they could be accepted back to the Union, they had to take the 14th Amendment that made them all slaves. they had to agree to slavery. So the North has been not only fucking every American Indian, but the entire South, that whole thing, they were basically forced under duress to be part of this bullshit. They saw something they didn't like, right? They didn't like the deal. They said, okay, never mind. You ain't doing right by us. And the North said, oh, no, you will not. Surrounded them with military. They were cut off from any commerce. Of course, they have to eat, right? But the North, it surrounded them. It's like they were economically brought to their knees. And no doubt, they would owe some kind of taxes because now you're part of the system and they're still having their census, right? So if you're not making it a living and you have to pay taxes and all of that, it's not looking good. It's not looking good because the states are bound to pay tax. If you're in a state, you have, and you're a part of that system, as our Indians were duped into thinking that this system was for them when the Constitution is saying not really, because you're not represented. If they don't count Indians, that Indians are not represented, right? You're not included in the count. So you're just there. And little by little, they know you're just going to fall into their system because you don't have any other uh, organization to fall into. You're just an Indian. Your tribe has been forced to not be Indians anymore because you got to call yourself black or hit the road jack on, and move to Oklahoma and whatnot. Or wherever, because as we know, the Trail of Tears is different from the Trail of Death. Trail of Tears were federal Indians. The Trail of Death, that 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 was not federal Indian. Um, well, I know they were Algonquins, and Algonquins were already being removed politically from North America and put in Canada. So these other Indians of the 5 civilized tribes, they're not Algonquin. They are basically the 5 civilized tribes. So they agreed to be part of this system because they got a lot of Moorish, as Amun Hotep El Chavez Bey told us, they are mixed with Mali ancestors and of Moorish mixture. So they're not really like first birthright Indian. And they're buying into colonizer system. So they're civilized. So the plan was to just get rid of all Indians who don't agree to be civilized or just by turning them black and then making all these promises that you break. So you're leaving them basically hanging them out to dry. Okay. So I said the first hour was revisiting the Constitution to see that we were not counted, represented, taxed. So what is it effectively not part of the United States body politic? Okay. So now let us catch some clues as to where is it at? Did I close it? No, I didn't. Uh, okay. Where's that? Where's that? I didn't close it. Where's it at? Where's that? Linguistic map, South Secedes. Uh, is this? Okay, we can take a quick look at some propaganda, I think. Yeah. Okay, so we're told that the Moors created a two-system government for Moors and Europeans. And I think this is a representation of that. The Moors were supposed to be Republicans, and the Europeans were supposed to be Democrats. This is what I got. I learned this from what do you call it? What's their channel? Indigenous Education. I a thanks to Indigenous Education for showing this in one of their videos. They have a series called uh, Genocide of Dark-Skinned People. And I believe this was one of the screenshots I took. The Democratic platform is for the white man. The Republican platform is for the Negropean. There is no Indian here. And Indians need to figure out why. It means we're not part of their system. Voting for Trump, oh yeah, that's right up here. It was conversations with Indigenous Education. See, episode, or is it supposed to be ESP5, Genocide of the Dark-Skinned Indian. You'll find them speaking on this in episode 5 of Genocide of the Dark-Skinned Indian. Let's read it again. This is exactly what Amunhotep El Chavez Bey told us in his document about the Washita Moors. He said, this system was built by the Moors for the Negropean, I'm sorry, for the Moors, who is a Negropean, and Europeans. Here is the representation of that on a completely non-related platform. Amun Hotep El Chavez Bey wrote the book, America is the True Old World. And this is, as we said, Indigenous Education's channel. They're saying the same thing. What am I saying? Where do you see an Indian here? Is Trump for you, or is he for the Negro ancestors? They're not playing tonight. Oh, they've been on fire lately. Thank you. Thank you. They're going to learn today. You keep voting for Republicans, you're voting for Negropeans, Moors. Now, they're not mentioning Moors, but Amun Hotep El Chavez Bey finally got his name, and Lord knows I wear it out. I wear that name out because homie was telling it. He said, once again, he said, the Moors created a two-system government for Moors and Europeans. There it is before your eyes. Are Indians supposed to be part of this? Hell to the nah, 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 nah. Hey, 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 goodbye. We're going to learn today. Okay, I had a linguistic map. We might as well look at it. This is the land that is going to be returned to American Indians. All of that greenery is going to go to Algonquins. If you trace back to Algonquin, there is your land, which you are getting back. Iroquois will be back where they belong. Everybody going back home, baby. No more of this bull crap. But what Indians are going to do is, well, I don't know, y'all. I think, oof, I ain't going to even say it here. But Iroquois is a special case. How about that? All other Indians are going to need to recognize each other, you know, so that we can establish this map back on American soil. Indians do not live in states, because if you do, you're paying taxes or you're standing there being surrounded by immigrants, and eventually you're going to fall into their system. That's why you have to tell them this is what you're on. So for Algonquins, for instance, me, I'm on the East Coast. All of that green stuff on the East Coast, I am free to roam without paying anything. I will live freely on all of that land, anywhere I go, effective immediately after Indians. As we do our our proclamation, set up our council, and what have you. This is what we're going to be going by, y'all. This is what we're going to be going by. If you don't like it, just stay more, because eventually you're most likely going to be going back to Morocco, because that's your motherland, yo. Here, Indians are in charge. You are in charge in Morocco. This is the problem. You're trying to be in charge on my land, setting up a two-system government that I'm not even part of, but don't want to be. But you pulled me in there anyway, so you're making a whole lot of money off of us that you shouldn't be making. When Indians identify as Indians, all of that profit goes right to Indians, the Indians Council, to help Indians. We're going to start collecting from our Indians. It's not going to go into the federal government anymore. Do you understand what has to happen? This is we do in a peaceful manner. We're not violent. But the law shall stand. Indian law shall stand in America. Okay? This is what the Moors should have been told you if they had your best interest. They are here to grab, okay? Now, I am not happy right now because let me see. I need to find the screenshot that I was going to. Oh, this is okay. So please look at the New America. Indians, thank your ancestors for your beautiful land. We're gonna do like the colonizers did. We're just gonna show up, okay, like they did. We're just gonna show up, but we're telling them this why we're showing up, because we didn't get a good deal in your system. We tried it. We didn't even know we weren't supposed to. It effed me up. I'm all traumatized, terrorized. And now we got to deal with what was ever in these shots you gave and stuff like that. Okay, so no, we got to go. It's been real. It's been real. But here we want to see, when did colonization begin in Africa according to the Encyclopedia Britannica? I thought Africa, well, I heard someone say that Africa was colonized first, but here in the Encyclopedia Britannica, I am told that, can we get a highlight going on? Okay, let's go back from there. That undo? No, that's not. You're gonna erase, come back. I I don't know, but I've been told colonization is well, I can't figure out right. Okay, I messed up. I messed up. Colonization is a lie been told. Oh, I can't do two told. Okay, never mind. Come on, where's my highlight? Stop. Come on. Oh, I can't highlight what. Okay, forget it. When did colonization begin in Africa? Just to be clear, because they're trying to say, oh, Africa, we everything was in Africa and we had to go there first and colonize there first. Not according to, oops, we're still highlighting. Not according to Encyclopedia Britannica and several other sources. I'm just using one now because I don't want to make this, a long ass video, but you can get an idea of who owns what in Africa. This is all now. They came flying to America in the 1400s, right? So what does that tell you about who has the resources? When I said in the last video, I don't know if I completed the thought. If you have the bag, you should be calling the shots, right? American Indian. Um, Not some foreigner holding your bag. What I mean is, if you find my land mass to be like your piggy bank, shouldn't I decide what kind of money we use and all of that? I mean, you are using my resources, right? How do you get to make the money when you don't have anything to back it? Apparently, you came to America first and then you went to Africa so that you can say, or I think it was to give the impression that there was something they wanted in Africa. Trust me, if there was something in Africa they wanted, Africa would have been colonized first. Again, America was colonized as early as the 1400s. After they come and rape the hell out of us and what we have, now they're gonna do a little psyop for Africa or make it look like they got something too. Okay, let's go over there with the other Negroes, because what we do to these Negroes, we got to do here, so they can think that Africa got something we want. If they did, Africa was the old world. We would have stayed in Africa, and they would have a Congress of Caucasians or some other race running them. But instead, what does Africa have? All their leaders look just like them. What does that tell me? Ain't nothing over there that nobody wants. Ain't nothing over there that nobody wants. Else they would be run by colonizers. And now they're telling us, let me see. Okay, we don't know what's happened since, but I don't know that Africa ever had leaders that didn't look like them. So what does that mean? That means that their own people were in bed with Europe. When did Africa have leaders that don't look like them? Has that ever happened? Well, they might have had Arab looking, but that's kind of, they've had Arabs there, but not to the extent that America. Go to Congress, it looked like a whole European pool. Like go into the I don't know, the spa or whatever, and just a sea of Caucasian faces. Now I know that there's a African face hiding somewhere, not in the picture, but they make sure that they're not seen. That's how cunning these Moors are, because Moors are African, in case you didn't remember. So you can get an idea of who owned what. It looks like France had the if this brown is French, which I think it is. No, yeah, French. Like France was having a ball in Africa. France is very curious to me because they're like the little nicer, friendlier British, but doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? They're uh like they come behind Britain to pick up the pieces, or they came before Britain to prime the get us all primed for the real deal. Then the British come and it's like, oh my God. Oh, but it's like the French, they get to sort of like not really get implicated. It's a weird thing going on with France. I tell you. I thought that what it was is basically they had deals with the Algonquin, but when they saw how great it was to join the Iroquois, they just let the Algonquins fall by the wayside. But they did say, well, why don't you come live with us in Kansas? We stood back so that Britain could take all your East Coast. So I guess we owe you that much. Come on up to Kansas. Well, Canada was ours before you were there anyway, French. So you ain't doing me no favors. What you need to do is go back to France. That's what you need to do. The doctrine of discovery has been denounced. When does the fuckery stop? Okay, so there's when this is Africa, rich, 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 but Europe was dragging her feet to get to your wealth. I guess it wasn't quite up to par. Well, we learned that uh the guy who rules here, Morocco, the Sultan, he said he wasn't getting enough money from Morocco, nor was he getting it from any of his whatever he conquests down here. So he moved his capital from somewhere over here, closer to over here, so he could be just a little bit closer to the United States. And then he could get wealthy. So I was telling the Moors, it sounded like y'all was broke. And your Sultan just needed to get some goods, but he didn't come to the American Indian. He went to American Indian colonized so that he could get his hands on our shit. I think Moors really need to look at their history without the bullshit narrative that they're given by their sheiks and uh, I don't know what they call them, their sheiks and their gurus or whatever they call them, they bombers. I forgot what they call them. It's like, I don't think y'all know that your folks just as greedy as any other colonizer. Now, where is uh, I had a page open that I cannot find. I'll find it. Was that it? Who are the Washingtons? No, it's close, but no cigar. Okay, so we're kind of running around, but let's uh let's do it while we're here. Those who are voting for Trump, who is for the Moors, because as we saw, that was old propaganda, by the way, that we were looking at. Uh, of did they put a date on it? But you saw the European was the Democrat and the Republican was the Negropean, right? So this is who Trump is representing. It's not Indians. He represents Negropeans, if at all. So, but this is what going on there. This is from the Washington Post. Trump vows to indemnify the police. Experts say that's already reality in most departments. Donald Trump has, or this was on December 23rd, and as you know, the election is coming up, so this is still effective. Okay. Donald Trump has recently promised to give police officers blanket protections from lawsuits he claims could upend their livelihoods. A vow some experts and civil rights advocates said is misleading because most officers are already shielded from financial liability. As he seeks to return to the White House, the former Republican president has repeatedly said that he would expand financial protections for officers when it comes to litigation they could face as a result of their conduct on the job. I'm also going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement officials throughout the United States. Ooh, boy. Isn't it Trump who said that after this, you won't have to vote anymore? Now, that statement added together with this, baby, I'm smelling dictatorship for the slaves. But you see, once the Indians get out, they won't have to worry about all this. They don't have the jurisdiction. You have to challenge jurisdiction, but you Indians want to vote for Trump. Well, let's read what he's going to do. I'm also going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement officials throughout the United States. Now, what indemnify mean? Blanket protection from lawsuits, okay? So they shoot you down, you die, and that's the end of that. And he go on to kill another day, okay? Above the law, okay? So Trump. Why don't y'all stop talking about Trump and start talking about our system that we're supposed to have been had according to the Constitution? Because we're not represented in this system, except as blacks. And you know that blacks don't get shit. Let's stop wasting our breath talking about Trump and get on the job. I'm talking about American Indian job. You heard? I'm also going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement officials throughout the United States from being destroyed by the racial left. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little carried away. From the radical left for taking strong action on crime. Strong action. What kind of strong action, might I ask? Trump said Tuesday at a campaign in Waterloo, Iowa. These are people they want to destroy them because they want to put criminals away. What? These are people. They want to destroy them because they want to put criminals away. They're the greatest people, the police, Trump added. They're under threat of losing their pension, their house, and their family, and losing everything. We lost everything right in here. We ain't got nothing of any authoritative value in our own land. That's like being in your house and there's some person that you thought was just going to pick up your groceries and do commerce and like that. And they move in, and next thing you know, she's answering your phone calls, she's greeting your neighbors at the door, she's making your schedule for you, she's taking over your bank account, blah 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 blah. You're just there, and this person has literally taken your life, your whole everything, and saying they're you. That's the more, because they're gonna look like you. but then they're gonna, get other people involved to, hide their identity. They're the greatest people, police. The police, Trump added. They are under threat of losing their pension, their house, their family. That's like every day for the average American Indian, right? Threat of losing their house, their family, because if, you know, shit ain't going right, you can't, afford that, whatever. Losing everything, right? Over nothing, right? If you're put in jail or lawfully. Indemnification in legal terms refers to when an individual's legal damages and typically their legal defense are paid for by another entity. Oh, so they don't even, so the police force doesn't even have to pay for. Wow, if that ain't living like nobility, I don't know what is. It's not, if that's not living like a car. I didn't know about this part. Indemnification in legal terms refers to when an individual's legal damages and typically their legal defense are paid for by another entity. Legal experts say the vast majority of police officers are already virtually indemnified by the cities and countries they represent, noting that any additional changes would likely need to first go through Congress. At the highest level, Trump is simply wrong to suggest that police anywhere in the United States are losing their pensions, homes, or families because of civil rights litigation, said Patrick Giacomo, a senior attorney at the Institute for Justice, a nonprofit civil rights law firm. Sounds good, but it ain't going to be good for Indians. Indians don't have civil rights. We have birthrights that crown civil rights and constitutional rights. Police are already indemnified from liability and provided free legal representation in most all lawsuits brought against them. So it seems Trump is a little ignorant to the deal. Setting aside the fact that they are also shielded by the court-created doctrine of qualified immunity. So Trump feel like he got to give police more, and this brother is saying they already got that, yo. Focus on them immigrants. I'm just kidding. Which they won't. So it look like Trump ain't got it right here, because Patrick Giacomo, a senior attorney, he's an attorney, so he kind of knows a little better how these lawsuits go at the Institute for Justice, a nonprofit civil rights law. Trump doesn't seem to have a clue about how the system is working when it comes to police, okay? Under the doctrine of qualified immunity, police are protected unless courts find they committed a clearly established constitutional violation. And trust me, ain't nobody going by that Constitution. Nope. That's why they never found, hardly ever found really, why can't they just get what do you call it? Anti hate bill for blacks if they care about their blacks. His pledge to indemnify police officers has become a frequent applause line with conservative crowds. While speaking at the New York Young Republican Club gala earlier this month, Trump said, "We are going to do something that I will say is slightly controversial, but it shouldn't be. We're going to indemnify policemen and precincts and states and cities." Oh my God. from being sued. Wait a minute, states and cities? Now that's the big news to me. Wow, Trump. Woo. States and cities can't be sued under Trump. Do the Trump supporters know this? At a recent campaign event in Reno, Trump said, "We're going to pay them for the cost for their lawyers." Wow, wouldn't it be nice if that were true of Americans and not just police or not police at all? Because if you do something wrong, just because you're in law enforcement, I don't think you should be above the law. But this is not my system. This is how they do it with Europeans and Negropeans. This is what they do. Okay. Um, I know. Do you want to read? I'm kind of done reading this. There's more to it, but we don't want to spend too much time. You get the idea. If you want to finish reading this article, I will link it. I did link it in my last video, but I will link it again since we actually talked about it here. But I'm gonna have to pause because I'm not finding my the next slide, which will be the last slide, and then we'll call it a night. So let me take a pause from screen share and a pause and I will be back. Thank you. We're back. And my document was there. I just had to find it among the many tabs I have. So let's go right to it. We've read this article before. Let me see. But we're going, this is the one of the gifts that keeps on giving. I think it'll really be the document that we shall return to often. This is the Amen Hotep El Chavez Bey article on the Washita Moors. So he's claiming in here, as a member of one of these tribes, that he is a Moor. So we have Indians that have, I believe they are Indian by marriage. Yeah, well, actually, yeah, they're Indian, but by marriage. You know what I'm saying? With Moors, they're more infiltrated by Moors than anything, and they have sort of like the Lenni Lenape. Their whole constitution changes. Their narrative is no longer strictly American Indian. When I say constitution, I mean their makeup. You know, they now have a little bit of Moorish doctrine and a little bit of Asian doctrine, a little bit of European doctrine, and a little bit of American Indian doctrine. And the American Indian side of their family is slowly being genocided. Okay, we have to understand that that is just the reality. And I think they're seeking more land than they're due, because they're looking for the land that was taken through conquest by their European family members. So they believe that they, like when they describe that they own half of America, I nearly passed out. How, but they claim that because of certain things that happen with European treaties and blah, 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 blah. So you're claiming land based on your connection to Europeans or Negropeans and Europeans. But if you were here on your own, you'd only have the land that your tribe was entitled to. If I'm reading what they said correctly, because I did read that they feel that they own half of America. So they're doing exactly what their colonizer half of the family would want them to do. Say you're an Indian and take that shit and give it to Papa. Negropean Papa. Mama is just there for decoration and to get us in. But you're on our agenda, our code. So this is why when you stand up as an American Indian, baby, you stand alone, and that's exactly how you want it to be. We can't have these people standing on two different continents talking about their American Indian. We can't do it. You've got to sift out the dual-minded Indians that's trying to be Moors and American. You have Morocco, we just have America. You, in all fairness, you really have to sit with that and say to yourself, why the hell should I have two land masses and the Indians don't have none? Or you thinking you own half of Indians' land? Go back home to Morocco with your family member that is our colonizer, please. Because you have more in common with him than you do with American Indians. You should be standing, if you're an Indian, you should only be standing on your Indian side of the family, yo. They should be going by your laws, your rules. You should be in charge. That's not what's happening with these compromised Indian/Moors. They don't seem to really get it. I was saying, like the Lenni Lenape, they are compromised by the Iroquois. So whereas the Algonquins had a story that had no turtle whatsoever in their creation story, the Lenni Lenape did insert they took both creation stories and put them together. Not going to work. They're dubious, dual-minded Indians. You have half a story from seriously compromised Indians like the Iroquois Confederacy, and you're still trying to hold on to your ancient Algonquian one. But that's not how it works. You become a new thing. You're not Algonquian, you're not fully Iroquois. You're just lost, really, because you've incorporated your enemy's doctrine and it sullied yours. Turtles are not indigenous to America. Turtles are not indigenous to America. In the Algonquin creation story, it was all about a muskrat. Muskrats are exclusively from America. Who's the real Indian in the house? Algonquin. When it comes to Iroquois versus Algonquin, Algonquins, hands down, are the older Indians, and they are Indian Indians. They're not Moorish Indians like the Iroquois and the 5 civilized tribes. So now let's just skip down because we come in here for a specific thing. The question on the table is, so you're saying we should start our own government. How do we do that? Well, we just learned that the United States is not our government. They just grabbed us and they're like, they're laughing to the bank, with us, right? Collecting taxes from us when the Constitution said Indians not taxed. They're counting us in their censuses, but to do that, they have to call us black because the Constitution says Indians are not taxed or enumerated. They just having a ball with our ignorance, and the Moors are not helping. The Moors are steering us right back to the corporation instead of telling us that they don't have jurisdiction over you because you're not part of them. You're supposed to have your own. But that's the system that the Moors created. Should I go to that part where he says, which is so interesting, because that's why I think there's some kind of cognitive dissonance going on. But let's for now, let's just go back. Let's go to the part about how do we begin to create our government separate from the United States like it was supposed to be, where we do have authority. Okay. So we could read, yeah, this was from the last video I did with this, and I still have the markings. Where is this? Is because I asked that question because in 1787, there was no Morocco on the planet, but they signed a treaty of peace and friendship with the United States. So it seems that Morocco was kind of born in the United States somehow, but they were still foreign. I don't know how to explain it. It's a very confusing story. But that's because they're not American. You see, they just look like us, and they're riding that to the bank. Let's read from the top video. Well, Egypt was once the capital of the world. In fact, the pharaoh gave the ancient Moabite Moors from Moab, Utah, the permission to settle Morocco, Indiana. Okay, so this story has different versions to it, but you just don't know why they would need permission if they're American. You see what I'm saying? Egypt was once the capital of the world, and he's calling America Egypt, and that is, from my studies, that's correct. In fact, the pharaoh, they don't say which one, gave the ancient Moabites, so they're Moabites, not American Indian, they're Moors, from Moab, Utah. Also, wait a minute. They're saying they're from Moab, from Utah. Interesting. This is where it's confusing because, as we said, history is having them as North African Berbers. Oh boy. See, I missed that before. But again, if you're American, why do you need permission to go to Morocco or I mean Indiana, whatever? Okay, avoid the hijack too, because when you Google Morocco, Indiana, it will tell you that it was founded in 1851, based off of the Morocco that is in North Africa. The only problem is that that the Morocco that is in North Africa wasn't founded till 1956. Well, you still got to tell me, you explain that one, but you ain't tell me how they signed a treaty in 1787 when both of these Moroccos didn't exist. You didn't explain that one. But anyway, so I will go with the Morocco that is in the old world, America, as being ancient Morocco. Oh boy, it's Egypt, it's Morocco. It's just, no, no, no. Settle Morocco, Indiana. So you created a Morocco. This is, I shouldn't have read this part, but let's keep going. So I will go with the Morocco that is in the old world, America, as being ancient Morocco. The Moabites from the tribe of Utah, Judah, called America, Morocco, which is another root for the word America. None of this is making sense to me. But I did catch something I didn't catch before. Here they're claiming to be from Utah. And this is something that's only in, it's not what history is saying, okay? But the part that it gets G is here. If, you know, you got to remember they're claiming to be American. But let's look at this. The last of the Al-Moroccan government fell in 1956 with the abolishment of the consular court when Black people accepted civil rights over their natural right. I'm sorry, civil rights over their natural rights as natural persons. So when you want to know how Indians will start their government, ironically, without ever telling you, the Moors kind of are telling you here. But you see, we're not going to be Moors, we're going to be American Indians. So as we read in the Constitution, they started to form their government by creating a Congress. Similar to that, the Moors here are talking about a consular court. So how you go about creating your government, what we're hearing from the Moors is you create your court first. Okay. So that would be key of how we create our government. My colleague and I were talking about this, and we realized that, yeah, we could probably, it'll help us to get out of the federal system that we're not supposed to be in, right? But I'm telling you, I'm reading this, but I'm still really baffled by that first part, how they create doppelganger names of countries, and then they just do the three walnut Monty, and you just don't, you just baffled. Like, so the other thing is Indiana is Algonquin, I learned. So these Moorish shenanigans going on Algonquin land is not really making sense, if it's even true, because where do we have proof that the Moors, that Moab was in America? Like, so then why are you teaching, what are you teaching in the Bible? Because you ain't saying that you saying America was a new world, and y'all saying that y'all didn't know about America. So what's it like? Again, I said their narrative changes, and then they start renaming places that you never knew, that Utah is Judah and all this stuff. And where are you getting this shit from? From the windmills of your sultan's mind. The Moroccan windmills of your sultan's mind. He's making it up, yo. This is made up. Why do I say that? I say that because the world only knew America as a new world, right? So what are you talking about here? None of America was called the old world. It was Africa and Europe that were thought of as the old world. So how do you step out of that paradigm into a world that was not discovered yet, allegedly, and now you're from this world? You're calling it the old world, but that's not what you called it. And the Moors would have known. They would have known. So back then, it was Africa was the old world. Now that America is here. They're saying it's somewhere in their doctrine, but it has not reached the mass uh you know history system. They never said America was the old world. So what are you talking about? So the more, see, they know shit, right? But then they jumble it up to make it what they wanted to make it, you know? So they're hiding stuff, and then they pull it like a rabbit out of a hat, and you're wondering, but wait, that means your whole narrative was a lie. Do you understand that you've been lying? This is all coming from you. So I'm really kind of put off by what I read. I shouldn't have read it because my point was to show you this. The last of the Al-Moroccan government fell in 1956 with the abolishment of the consular court, when Black people accepted civil rights over their natural rights as natural persons. So they're saying that once Black people accepted civil rights, the according to them, they were no longer needed. And in 1956, he's saying, is when here, the Morocco in one another color, when their court allegedly. So what happened to the whole Spain stuff? If you were anyway, the Spain stuff was, what was that? 711 AD, is that right? So still this stuff happened. Okay, let's break this down, because that was what I did. What I did understand when I read this was there was no pharaohs in 1851, right? The whole dynasty system and pharaohs was long gone. So what pharaoh in 1851 allowed you to establish Morocco and Indiana in 1851? So yeah, so see, I just debunked this lie, because what pharaoh existed in 1851? Pharaohs were long gone by 1851. Long gone, yo. The last dynasty was, oh my God, in Africa somewhere. The first dynasty was in America. That's what my research, from about the first dynasty to the 18th dynasty. So let's say the first dynasty to the 17th dynasty was American, South American, at around the area of the Yucatan and Peru. Yeah. So that so we would have to look at the timeline, but I believe it was like BC. It was BC when the pharaoh system wasn't no longer in America. It was in like 11 something BC is when Akhenaten was expelled. Him and the Amen priesthood. That's what I'm learning when you do Horace Butler's When Rocks Cry Out. And when you do the timeline and you realize that they're calling, okay, I would have to revisit that, but at some point, they don't call Egypt Africa until after Akhenaten is Akhenaten time. The time of Akhenaten and after is when Egypt was in Africa. Okay, Akhenaten was expelled, but anyway, I think I caught the discrepancy, which I did before, but now I'm putting it together. what pharaoh in 1851 helped tell you could found Morocco? So there's something wrong here. They were in Spain around 711. So that's way before 1851. So he's discarding an entire story about them being in Spain, because what were they going to do? Oh, Spain was in America. Oh, please stop. Please stop it. Please stop it. Now, so let's do this, because this was bothering me, and now I think I got it. Then we'll go down here. The Moors first appear not in 1851 with Morocco in Indiana. The Moors first appear in history at about before the 1400s. So in the I think I think we just debunked this, guys, because he's trying to tell us that there was a Morocco in America first in 1851, and as well as a pharaoh that gave them the permission to go to Morocco in Indiana. But your story begins in like 70, somewhere in like 711 is when you fell, right? In Africa. Okay, guys, we got it. We got it, guys. We got this. They scared me for a minute, and I never did the math. And I'm sorry, I didn't intend to do that here. But this is my first time breaking this down because I just read it before and I wasn't comprehending. So what I'm saying is their story starts in 711 when they fell in Spain, is I believe when they fell. Regardless, what I'm trying to establish is that the timeline is way off, and their first history is in Africa, not in America in 1851. So this is some bullshit, okay? Straight up confusing bullshit. How am I forgetting that they started way before this, 1851? So a pharaoh in like BC time gave you permission in 1850. How did he time travel to give you permission when he long gone? What pharaoh are you talking about? The pharaoh? Wouldn't that be a significant pharaoh that you would have to give him a name? You would have to tell us, so this pharaoh is the one that gave us permit. The pharaoh. Okay, so somebody needs to brush up on his own history, right? Moors were in Africa first, not in America in 1851. Stop it. They were in Spain around 711, and 711 is a far cry from 1851. You guys are colonizers in America, okay? You are fucking colonizers. You are not indigenous. And this story really, I never broke it down, but I just did. Thank you, ancestors. So let's move on, okay? There was Moors in Africa way before 1851 when they showed up in America, apparently, according to this story. Oh my God, this is it's just so confusing. There's something going on here. Because, I mean, they're saying that Morocco and Africa wasn't founded until 1956. But the whole story of them being expelled from Spain to go to Morocco was in like 711. Wasn't it 711? Okay. Now I gotta look it up. Now I gotta look it up. I'm sorry, y'all. We're jumping a little bit because this is gonna bug me. And this is I didn't intend to do this, but let's do it. When okay. Talking about chaos, this whole thing with Lopez and Affleck, what kind of crazy confusion spells, are they working? It's like y'all making people tired of y'all with this. Like, oh, they together, oh, they split up, oh, they together, oh, they split up, oh, they together. I'm sorry, I'm just going off with today's current events. When did Spain, okay, how about were when were the come on. My shit is lagging, yo. It's just lagging. I'm typing and nothing is appearing. Okay. When were the Moors driven from Spain? We'll go with that. Oh boy. It's one of those websites, all these pop-ups. Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, I got it 7-Eleven wrong. I'm sorry. Uh, and that's why I had to look because I just want to try to um the rule of the Moors in Spain lasted until 1492. Oh man, this thing is I clicked on something and it done opened something and I did not intend for that to happen. But my internet is acting really a little crazy. But we okay, so they're saying they were in Spain, but see, I'm saying this to say they were in America. The Moors were driven from Spain. Here we go. In 1492, when the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella the First completed the Reconquista by capturing Granada. This marked the end of nearly 800 years of. Okay, so they were before 1492. They were in Spain 800 years. So they were in Europe way before any 1856 appearance in America. So I think we have solved that mystery that shouldn't have been a mystery if I was uh on my P's and Q's. When were the Moors in Spain? Okay, when were the Moors in Spain? That okay. So they so okay. Again, so that's their reign. I'm sorry, 7-Eleven is when they got into Spain. I got it wrong. I was like, but regardless, look at the 7-Eleven. My Negro, you are African because they say you came. Okay, the Moors are Arabs from North Africa, lived in Spain, mainly in the south, for about 8 centuries, from 7-Eleven to 1492. They invaded the Iberian Peninsula, defeated the Visigoths, and established their rule, which included most of Spain and Portugal. Their presence had a significant influence on the culture of the region. Okay. So when Indians see this, they get all happy and think, oh, no, this is the Moors, okay? And the reason why they all up in these other countries, Europe, they ruled in Europe and all of that, is because they're building up opposition against your American Indian ass, okay? Moors were most usually depicted as being mostly black and very swarthy, and hence the word is often used for Negro, according to the Oxford English Dictionary. Several written works at the time also confirmed that. The 16th century English playwrights William Shakespeare used the word Moor as a synonym for African, and Christopher Marlowe used Moor and African interchangeably. So this is blackhistory.com, and the Moors seem to be for giving up their African birthright to try to take ours. And but if you're arriving in 1856, you're several centuries too late to be an American Indian. You are like you were way late. I don't know who this pharaoh is you're talking about, but that sounds like, again, something made up in the windmills of your Moroccan mind. Okay, author and historian Chancellor Williams said the original Moors, like the original Egyptians, were Black Africans. Well, you see, the original Egyptians were not African because, okay, Egypt's culture, it was an American culture. Um, in other words, the timeline given to Egypt is actually America's timeline, where America began civilization. They're saying it was in Africa. No, it wasn't. It was in America, and it was before the Maya. So that's why it is key to own our ancient heritage, because it's an American one. It's not from Africa. Egypt began in America. That's what Horace Butler is telling us. Okay. But it did move to Africa, and that's because they got kicked out. They got kicked out. Now, I am starting to think that the whole dynasty system was part of the reason that Egypt ended up in Africa. I think we got tired of the dynasty system, to be honest with you, because that is a family. The dynasties are one family, just generations of the same family, just like in Britain. It's generations of the same family. And I had to come together and realize, yes, although we may have been Egypt, once that dynasty started happening, that was when the greed started to happen. And then the first pharaoh, he's basing his story on like a I think either the person he defeated, which was the Scorpion King, which was American, and they seem to be introducing gods, right? But they're not living the lives of those gods. They're giving you a story like Osar, but Osar is kind of like imaginary, right? While the first actual pharaoh was nothing like Osar. You know what I'm saying? people who know, about these pharaohs, it's like Narmer, he was like someone who, one of those, like, I want to unite. And you got to watch out for the uniters, because when they unite, they're usually taking over someone's country that don't want to be part of them, and they're quote unquote uniting them. So I started to see Narmer as a problem, because I remember when I first read that he took over by force. And so they're saying he established, quote unquote, the first dynasty, and but he brought two kingdoms together. So I began to realize, beginning with Narmer all the way to the last pharaoh, they were all a family, one family. Okay, and that's a problem. That's a serious problem, because that's what we got now, and they become greedy. They start feeling very entitled. It's no longer about how they serve the people, it's about how the people are their slaves. So I can kind of understand why Indians are reluctant to accept Egypt, because the dynasty system is a problem. It is our history, but that doesn't mean we have to continue that tradition of the dynasty. It seems like the dynasty bred itself out and became every other culture just so it could remain dominating the people. And I think that's, when I think about it, Akhenaten got expelled. So that means we got tired of dynasties. You know what I'm saying? Because that was a family. In other words, Akhenaten should trace back to Narmer. So kicking out Akhenaten was like kicking out all of the whole entire thing. Then they go to Africa and start it all over again. They start bringing the religion that we rejected, and they force it on us. It's like, that's what I started to see, but I realized the Moors would have taken up the religion that we rejected. And then now they're trying to say that they're us. But their story historically has nothing to do with us. In their story, we didn't exist. So you denied us, Moors, and now you want to be us. It's not going to work. The ancestors don't play. As you see, they're revealing your whole lie. It's over for you, Morris. You can't fight against ancestors who have been wrong. You're bringing a lot of bad karma to your people by doing that. You need to leave peacefully after all the genocide you've heaped on American soil. Okay. Okay, so you can read the rest of that. I didn't really want to go off on this tangent. It's not all about Moors, but so this is, once again, blackhistory.com, and this is Black Kings and Queens ruled parts of Europe for almost 700 years. Now, when they were doing all of this, the Moors had the world believing that we didn't exist. Okay, that's one reason how you know that they were not your friends. They denied you while they were the toast of Europe or whatever they were. the kings and queens of Europe. They denied that we even existed, and now they want to be us. Not going to happen. Okay, so now we want to go back to this because this is going to show the Indians. This here is how we're going to learn from the Moors, but we're not going to be the Moors. Okay. So in both cases, we see that the United States federal government started talking about their legislature and their Congress and how they want to pick representatives. That's kind of what we can do once we establish our council, we call it. You know, me and my constituent, we decided that would be basically a council of American Indians. So we're gonna have to find our Indians in all the states, see who is ready to uh become Indians again and run their business, run their show. Yeah. Um, so let's read a little bit about how the Moors did it, but we're gonna call out their bullshit at the same time. So what we're gonna see when we read this is that they had a court. Now, if they stayed in America and they were us, that would have been our court because as you read, the United States, well, that's the thing. They said they created the United States. In this article, he says the Moors created the United States. Oh, it's right here, actually. It's right. Uh, where is it? Well, okay. Where does it say? Here's okay. Two system government. Okay, here. So it can be found on a dollar bill, but also the Moors brought the Europeans to the table to form a peaceful two-system government. One was for the Moors and one for the Negro Peons. There's just a lot wrong with this because you're here under some odd terms, but yet you're forming a government for you, a foreigner, and Europeans, another foreigner. So see, our government that's for American Indians, it's only going to be for American Indians. The problem with our system is that it wasn't built for us, but it's on our land. And there's something wrong with that. Why can't you go to Morocco or wherever in Europe you're claiming to be and do this? Who told you you get to? It's like being a corporation. If you get to do shit with other people's shit that doesn't affect you because you're in a corporation. So you don't take the hit. You on my land and you're saying you're representing me, but you're just puppeting me. I'm a storefront for you. But anyway, the last of the Almoroccan government fell in 1956 with the abolishment of the consular court when Black people accepted civil rights over their natural rights as natural persons. Well, if we were Indians, we would have accepted our birthright. And you're not talking about birthright because you're not an American Indian. You're talking about natural rights, but natural to where? Where's the land that you're being natural on? See how the Moors kind of leave that part out? We would have accepted. So they're saying that they had a court here in 1956, but it ended in 1956 because we took civil rights. If we had to take civil rights, that means you weren't doing anything for us, right? Why would we need civil rights if you had an Al-Moroccan government for us? Because it wasn't for us as American Indians. You see, American Indians, how you're being played by Moors who are up to take your place of all other people. Again, you think white men can take your legacy. No, they can't. It has to be someone who looks like you to make it believable, to make it seamless. So the last of the Al-Moroccan government fell in 1956 with the abolishment of the consular court. They had a court. Then why are you always directing us to go to the United States courts? You even knew that it had to be a separate court for us or for a sovereign. How about, because they're not us. See, that's the thing. The spell is on and it's really on, but we're going to turn that off, right? Little by little, we're going to turn that spell off and have our people come out of that spell. Because now, at times, even I'm thinking that, oh, they was for us. But I'm just trying to show you that they keep saying that they're us. But did y'all know that there was a consular court in that? My parents didn't know about no consular court in 1956. And apparently, if you were us, then that court would have been for us. But you went running out of here when we took civil rights. But what were we getting before civil rights, Moors? Because if you had a system and we weren't getting justice there, if we were getting justice there, we wouldn't be looking for civil rights, right, Moors? So what were you here doing exactly? That we went scurrying for civil rights, and then when we do, you pack up and leave. But you're talking like we had if you're us, then you're saying that we had a government, but it fell when Black people accepted civil rights over their natural rights. And so they're admitting that civil rights are inferior to natural rights. I've been saying that for a while now. I don't know if you heard me, but maybe you'll hear this more say it because y'all prefer to hear everything from Moors. The liars. Okay. Lies are always sweet on the air, right? So I'm saying this is a roadmap for American Indians. We have to establish our council and our court because these Moors, they trying to say that they had a court for us, but they hot-footed out of here. And then I was asking my colleague, well, if they were us, why would they leave? Because they're saying in 1956, when their court fell because we took civil rights, that's when the Morocco appeared in Africa. But you were already in Africa when you got defeated by Spain, weren't you? So this is where the story's getting a little crazy. You've got to stop listening to more of your brain will start to boil. So they're trying to have us believe that there was no Morocco in Africa when they got defeated in Spain in 1492. This is extremely confused. Their story, it's again, your brain is going to lose a few cells trying to make it make sense. But I'm here to tell you that if you don't stop following Moors, you're going to end up genocided. And they will be right there to see you drop. And when you drop, they will stay on your birthright. You better separate yourself, Indian. You better separate yourself and stand on strictly your American Indian birthright. I'm telling you. I am telling you. It cannot be shared. That is a way of despising your birthright. Trying to share it with a foreigner who has their own birthright somewhere else, if you're depreciating yourself, you better hold on to your birthright like that shit is a fucking lifeboat or a life saver jacket or whatever. You do not share it. They have their own lifesaver. It's called their birthright in their homeland. You giving yours to a Moor is foolish. Yes, I know he wants it. Yes, I know he's begging you for it. Yes, I know he's rubbing your ego to get it. Do not give it to him. Tell him to go to Morocco, the place of his beloved. Okay, that's his beloved, not America. And he so tells us in so many ways. The word Morocco just it's like it lives on their tongue. That's not America, okay? I don't care what kind of word scrambling they do. Morocco's Morocco and America's America. I don't care if it sounds like, oh, it could be Al Morocco, but it's not. There's only one problem with that. It's not. You said America didn't exist when you were in Africa. And you allowed that narrative, as powerful as you were, like we just saw in Europe with European kings and your Negropean kings or whatever, you denied America. That's why the ancestors don't want nothing to do with you, Moors. Go away. Go away and stop lying, for God's sake. So again, the point of this video is to show you that if the Moors could have a fucking court on our land, American Indians, you got your work cut out. Let's get this thing moving. We got a lot of cases to look at. They had a court and they went running back home to Morocco. Every time the going gets tough, the tough get going. But they want to whisper in your ears and direct your movements. Go home and run your country. If there's something in my country that you want, you will compensate me for it. Isn't that a revolutionary idea, Moors? You thought you could come up in here and just take it, and you have been. But you can't be a thief and expect that people are going to accept that when they're the people that are being robbed. You are stealing from us, Moors. You're stealing our birthright, you're stealing our resources, you're stealing our identity. You insist that it's all about what you look like. That's not how the rest of the world works. And no one else needs Pangea or is looking for Pangea to justify being American but you. You come up with the most cockamamie prehistoric bullshit. You claim to have been here when Pangea was happening, but then you said America's a new world. So if you were here in Pangea, then you know damn well America is not a new world. Then why did you say that? And what you gonna say? Oh, we didn't want to leave America, but God split and we ended up in Africa. Well, then stay where God put your ass. Why are you so hungry for America? If Pangea happened and your ass ended up in Africa, baby, that's where God wanted you to be. Stay where you be. Because all you're showing us is that there's something here that you are desperately trying to steal and you want it forever. So what does that mean? I have to be gone forever for you to get it. Y'all better wake up to these Moors, y'all. American Indians, if your ass don't wake up, I swear. These Moors are not your friends. Stop listening to them. Tell them to go advise people in Morocco. That's their people. Africa is their people. That's why they got Obama in that damn seat. That's their shit. Don't be mad because Obama was their president, because that's their government. They just told us that. Look in red right there. Read that part in red. The Moors brought Europeans to the table. What happened to the Morocco and Africa? What are you doing here, Moor? You're no better than a European. You're just a colonizer. Them is your people. So, yes, we didn't want this to be 2 hours. So I'm going to end up cutting it. The point, again, if the Moors had a court, I never heard of it, but if they can have a court, none of this makes sense though, y'all. But the point is, if they had a court, what do you think Indians have to do? Everybody comes here and sets up court, but American Indians, we want to run into their courts, and we feel we're going to find justice. You're going to put those courts on notice that there's a new court in town. It's called American Indian Court. And you got some splaining to do. We do this in a peaceful, lawful manner, but you got some splaining to do. And so does the Iroquois Confederacy. Because I don't know who died and put them in charge of all Indians. Or should I say who was murdered and they took charge. Because they sure not speaking for Algonquins. And they're not speaking for a majority of the Indians. Again, if they were, there would be no Indians who were reclassified Black. So the Iroquois act a lot like the Moors. They do some shit and they kind of disappear. They're great at disappearing. Now I'm telling you what I'm reading. If they were us American Indians, they wouldn't have left here in 1956, according to what they're saying, to go back to Morocco in Africa. They would have stayed here and fought. Why did you run, Moors? If you were here and you saw your brothers going the wrong way, taking civil rights, you were supposed to stay and persuade him to not take civil rights. You were supposed to keep your court here, because if we were one and the same, that would have been our courts, but we're not one and the same. I'm just saying, if we were, then you would have stayed here and insisted that, no, let's get our court together because we're not part of the federal. But here in the next, that's why I'm saying some bullshit, because in the next few paragraphs, then you're telling us you created this federal system for you and and the Europeans, I'm sorry, the Moors and Europeans. So then what was the consular court for? If you, oh God, please, I can't Eliza too much. I gotta shut this video because it every other word is like wait, you conflicting with what you just said though. So you said you left. Wait. Oh no, this was in 1787, you say? See, so the time is off. They said in 1787 they were trying to stop the fighting on the land, but there was no Morocco, Indiana in 1787, and there was no Morocco in Africa in 1787. So what is the Morocco Treaty of Peace? That's what we decided that had to be a fictitious nation that was actually a corporation. So in 1787, Morocco Treaty of Peace and Friendship was a means to try and stop the fighting on the land. So there was fighting on the land in 1787. And then in 1956, years later, they established a consular court. And when you read the consular court, listen to this now. This is what I want to show you. They tell you here is a definition of a consular court. A tribal a tribunal convened by public officials who reside in a foreign country. So right there, they're telling us that they're foreign. They are public officials. Remember, this is happening in America, y'all. Because he's saying after we accepted civil rights, then they went and went to the Africa, the Morocco and Africa. So he's saying a consular court. See, in one breath, they're trying to say they were here, but then in another breath, they're saying they're foreign to here. You see? So a consular court is a tribunal convened by public officials who reside in a foreign country. So they're saying when they're in America, they're in a foreign country, but they're here to protect the interests of their country, Morocco, for the settlement of cases based upon situations that happened in the foreign nation, which is America, because their nation is Morocco, and which is held pursuant to authority granted by treaty. The 1787 Morocco Treaty of Peace and Friendship. But if you're a corporate entity, do you even have people? Because a corporation could be so fictitious that it's one person, right? Because there's no Morocco, according to his logic, there is no Morocco in let me see, until 1851 and 1956. So where did this Morocco in 1787 come from? What is it? Where is it at? It's on paper, y'all. So they're just like colonizers. They do things like colonize. They don't see, they create something that is not land-based so that they can grab the land that they base it on. So they create a corporation wherever they created it, and they call it Morocco. Next thing you know, they're making a treaty with our colonizer, but not with us. This is what I don't understand. If you were for us, why are you treating with colonizer? And then we get left out as Black. But this is this is what he's saying. The Moors brought the Europeans to the table to form a peaceful two-system government, one for the Moors and one for the Europeans. And I think that's what we were looking at up here. Notice the two seals, which suggest two governments. What government makes a government for two foreigners, though? That's what doesn't make sense. China doesn't make a government for Russia and Germany in China. But the Moors, so greedy for our resources, they're going to set up government in America for themselves, a foreigner, and for their best friends, the Europeans. They're African and their best friend is European. But in Africa, all their people look like them running their government. And in America, although the Moors said they set this up for Europeans, they got Europeans running everything. And the Moors never supported your American Indian. They should, if they were helping us as brothers, they would have respected our American Indian birthright, and they would have said, well, you guys need to set up your own government. Let us help you do that. And then can we get in business with you? And you have all these great resources, and I'm your brother in Africa. Can you help me? Why couldn't the Moors do that, guys? I'm going to tell you why. Because really, if we were brothers who got along, that would be a no-brainer. The Moors are coming in through the back door with a lot of foreigners. Why won't they face us, y'all? And when they do face us, they're just telling us that we're them and they're us. Why won't they face us and respect who we are as American Indians without trying to be us? That's what a true brother would do. I'm going to tell you why, because it's really hard to figure out, but I'm going to tell I just figured it out just now. Thank you, ancestors. Because we were at enmity with them. We were not on good terms with Moors, y'all. They My feel is that it's because our ancestors expelled them. That's what but see, that's what we don't talk about. So we have to go with what the Moors say and keep that to that. Let them be trapped in their own lies. Why couldn't they why did they have to go to the United States corporation for our goods or our resources when they could have came to us? Because they couldn't come to us, y'all. I'm trying to tell y'all something. The Moors are not your friends. And unfortunately, you have to be very wary of Indians who are claiming to be Moors because they are also very indoctrinated by the Moors. Why couldn't the Moors come to us and we would have gladly helped them if we recognized them as our brother? They're not acting like our brother is what I'm trying to tell you. If your sultan is getting in bed with the same people that are treating us like shit, and you are recognizing them as a nation, you are not my brother, Mr. African, Mr. Moroccan. There is something between us that is not getting resolved, and you don't intend to take from us. And the most insidious way to do that is to say that you are me and steal from my house. That's what the Moors are doing. I'm going to read them every day, all day, and twice on Sunday, as much as I can, because I see a birthright that someone is trying to steal. And it's just not going to happen with the eyes of the ancestors. Put your glasses on, let the ancestors reveal to you so you can get your birthright back. They had a council of court, and baby, American Indians need to set up court and start healing our very wounded American Indians. Um, we nearly have a 3-hour video here. I'm sorry, I didn't intend it to be that long. With the rest of our time, let's see, maybe we could look at another slide. Is this a different one? Oh yeah, that's another from Indigenous Education, Genocide of Dark-Skinned Indians. The Freedmen's Bureau, an agency to keep the Negro in idleness at the expense of the white man. Twice vetoed by the president and made a law by Congress. Support Congress and you support the Negro. Sustain the president and you protect the white man. So they thought the Freedmen's Bureau was an agency to keep the Negro in idleness. I'm just confused by it because I think in all of this, they're mixing American Indians with the Negro Peons who were trying to break away from King James. And I really think that's a problem because it just makes everything uh, that much more complicated because they're putting their story on us and we are taking on their identity when we take on their story. But I do know that Indians, if they stayed in the States, they were transformed into a Negropean. So, in other words, although you were an American Indian, if you stayed in the state, they're going to give you the identity as their identity, which was they were subjects to a British king. So they're saying we don't want you to be an Indian because we ain't giving you your land. So why don't you be one of us? And then we can accept you. And the Moors are acting the same thing. We we don't we don't want to be you because we can't be you, but we actually no, they do want to be us. But if they can get us to be them, then they could, it'll be easier for them to take our birthright because they're not us. So we have to desire to be them and take on their names. So it's easier for them to say, oh, look, his name was El Bay, so we can take his land after he dies because he's one of us. You better keep your name, American Indians. Don't you dare change your name. You're giving away your birthright again. For 1864 and 1865, the Freedmen's Bureau cost the taxpayers of the nation at least 25 millions of dollars. It's just amazing. You come to my country, and the fact that you even have $25 million, how do you think you got that money when you're on my land? You knew you couldn't get it at home, right? That's why you're here, right? To make money off of my resources, right? So you damn right you're gonna pay for me because you're living off of my land. You have to compensate me. I don't know why it gets so twisted when it comes to America. The compensation issue. So anyway, yeah, it's all confusing. Freedmen. In other words, you made me a freedman because I was an Indian, and now you don't want to pay me. It's like this is just a trip, like a banana peel to hell. No matter what I do with you, you are always trying to wiggle your way out of the fact that you owe me. So I'm an Indian, and you don't want me to be that because that clearly shows that you're a thief. And then when you make me a freedman, you're griping and bitching and moaning about what you got to pay me either way. You damn right. So on that note, guys, I think I want to leave on our lovely uh where's my map? Where's my ballistic map? uh okay, before we go, it's about 4 minutes. I just want to quickly also show that the Constitution of 1787 had no legal dictionaries because the first legal dictionary you will see, did I highlight it? Okay, maybe I didn't. Oh yeah, I didn't. Okay, so this is Tarleton Law at the University of Texas .edu, Texas Law, Tarleton Law Library, Jamel Center for Legal Research. Words are most words are the most basic tools of a lawyer, and precise definitions are necessary. The Law Dictionary collection at the Tarleton Law Library has existed in some form as long as the library itself. Okay, so that's a law dictionary. Okay, collection. Okay. In the 1980s, Tarleton began systematically collecting law dictionaries to support the Oxford Law Dictionary Project, which the law school was hosting. Many of the dictionaries in this exhibit were acquired at that time. So they have an exhibit of law dictionaries. The somewhat decrepit condition of some of the volumes is a testament to the genuine utility of these law dictionaries. So there's a picture of some. Dictionaries unique to the jurisprudence of the United States arrived relatively late. For the hundreds of years following the initial colonization of British colonial North America, the dictionaries lawyers and jurists turned to were those of England. The first legal dictionary published in the United States was a New York 1811 reprint of a late edition of the Law Dictionary of Giles Jacob, published in 1809 in England. So I never got to talk about this, but let's do it quickly. So you have a constitution in 1787 that has none of the words defined by a legal dictionary. And then the first legal dictionary in the United States is from England. What is the problem with that, American Indians? We've been talking about this for a while, but we just never did the video, and this doesn't really suffice for that video, but it's the beginning of the conversation. But we might be able to just begin it here and just keep it as food for thought. That's why I'm saying this legal system is committing fraud, because you're redefining. If there was no law dictionary, in other words, for this to be legitimate, you would have had to have a legal dictionary before the Constitution was created. If you have a legal dictionary after the Constitution is created, by like nearly like a century or whatever, then you are actually redefining. We have to assume that you're redefining words, and you are in the case of person. So a legal dictionary says a person is a corporation, or a person is according to his rank in society. That's what a legal dictionary is saying. That's not what a person meant in 1787. Well, not we, but the colonists, the settlers or whatever, they didn't understand a person to be a ranking of like a status ranking. They just thought a person was anybody. And then we assumed that it was a natural person, but then you got jiggy with the law dictionaries in 1811 and after, and now a person is not necessarily a man or a woman. So this is how your Constitution gets eroded when your legal dictionaries show up years later after the Constitution, and it shows up from England. That's why in American Indian system, we are not going to use any of their wording. Did you hear that? I'll say it again. When we set up our court like the Moors did, but then the Moors done turned around and said, we set up a consular court, but then we set up a whole Republican and Democratic system. The Europeans were Democrats and the Negropeans was Republicans. So again, and is the Republican Party for American Indians? No, that's not what it's created for. That's not what it was created to be. They were waiting for you to build a system, but all the time you stayed and weren't prodded by any Moors or anybody of any race to start your system. They were just mapping out how they want to grab you into their system. And that system has never worked for you. And then when you do try to work it, you got to grab a L or a B to help you understand how the system works. And yet you say you built this. And that I'll never live that down, y'all. I'll never live that down. But Indians really need to be clear. If you built it, you'd be working it better than anybody in America. And that is not the case. We are running to Moors to try to explain the system. But the problem with that, again, is the Moors have you running to a sea jurisdiction, a commerce jurisdiction, because he's not honoring your birthright law of the land. He's not even encouraging you to start your own system. And when he does, you best believe he's going to ask you if he can do it. And oh, y'all, okay, yeah, let's do that. We can't do it, you more. We cannot go back home and stop your foolishness now. Do you understand you're being revealed? Do you understand that the jig is up? Just zip your lips and go sit down over there. We have a country to run. We have a birthright to maintain. All this shit coming from Europe and Africa. And then we get a European African president and we don't understand who's at the helm of this. It's not the European, yo. So who's left? It's the African. Who's African? Well, Moors are from Morocco. Where's Morocco? In Africa. Who's your enemy? Africa. Maybe not all of Africa, but the source is African. Europeans are just being taken for the ride. They're the ones that are gonna get all the benefits. Like they're gonna be the storefront for what the Moors are getting. It's gonna look like the Europeans are getting it, but it's the black Moors hiding behind the Europeans that's getting that. And when we're gone, if they had their way, then they could replace us, and then they would suddenly change. No more Mr. Nice Guy. If the Moors were allowed to really run, first of all, they have you all under sultans. So you're just a subject to a king, and they will own the land. Indians wasn't playing that, and that element got expelled from America. I realized in expelling Akhenaten, really the entire dynasty system was done away with, including the priesthoods that were part of it. Amen priesthood, y'all was out, but y'all came back with the Church of Rome. So we touched on this. I think that's all I'm going to do here. And that actually we could read it because that's just one page. Let's just finish reading. The first legal dictionary published in the United States was a New York 1811 reprint of a late edition of the Law Dictionary of Giles Jacob, published in 1809, still years after the Constitution, in England. This and other reprints of English law in the United States, let's call it British law in the United States, would often contain notes for U.S. lawyers, but they were fundamentally English works, British works. Legal literature in the United States really dates from the decades of the 1820s and the 1830s, with publications of works by James Kent, Nathan Dane, and Joseph Story, among others. However, it was not until 1839 that the United States was to have a law dictionary of its own. Oh, thank you. But no, thank you. Where we are abolishing law dictionaries as American Indians, because law of the land has to be generated by American Indians, not by agents of Britain. And we want a legal system that we understand. It's no complicated, uh, tricky, fancy wording. It's going to be real simple, y'all. American Indian law is going to be real simple. First of all, if you're an immigrant, you're not American. That's colonizer dream works, okay? If you're an immigrant, you are not an American. Indians are American. We're not, we are not beholden to giving away our birthright. We don't have to. It was a crime back then. It is a crime right now, and it has to stop. When I go to China, I'm sorry, China, I am not suddenly Chinese. Okay? And they will call me what I am by just looking at me. And see, right now they'll call me what African, Chinese, or I don't know. But I'm not Chinese when I go to China. America is the only place that's trying to set a precedent where all you do is come to this country and boom, you're American. That is genocide for the real Americans, and it will come to a crashing end by the power of the ancestors. Thank you, ancestors. And so let it be. Let it be that American Indians who are only American Indian and not Moorish Americans, not any other kind of Americans, but American Indians, will be reestablished as the landowners of the Americas, who will get compensated when a foreigner feels, oh, I need to make money. Well, you're going to compensate me if I'm involved. If you come in here, you don't. There's no free lunch, and other nations need to get really real about that, because you wouldn't want it happening in your country. So why would you even think that it's okay to happen in America? Thank you, ancestors, for this knowledge. Uh, red zone. Yeah, the 2020 census. That's, I think, the red areas. They were saying, someone did a video on this, and I took a screenshot. But that's where there's more people of color, where the red areas are, the pink and red or whatever. And so this is why, certain inoculations were necessary, and why the immigrants are necessary. But it's not going to stop what is happening. I had a video where I wanted to show the pyramid, but we could only get as high as the monarch when I took a picture, for the video caption. But I love this pyramid because there's not too many showing who's at the top. So this is the entity that American Indians have to notify, that we have received his denunciation of the doctrine of discovery, and we are thankful and very appreciative. And so we are establishing our council to start to manage our resources and end the brutality against American Indian males and females. So this pyramid lets us see clearly that it's not the monarchs, but you kind of knew that because it's the church that is making the monarch. And I really feel that, this is interesting because farmers are everything, but in a colonizer system, they have to put you at the bottom. But you're the one that's feeding all of these. These folks don't eat unless there's a farmer here. And I think they did that because American Indians were farmers, and they only have us one cut above the peasants. But when they turned us black, we were made the serfs and the peasants. So we had a little status in their system, right? But see, this is not our system because we're not under the Church of Rome. It just like how Malcolm X said about the Plymouth Rock. It landed on us, you know. The church landed on us, just like this pyramid is showing. Was like, say if this was us, this thing came crashing on our head. The monarchs and the nobles and the knights and the vassals and the merchants. Oh yeah, the merchants, because this is all commerce, right? The craftsmen. But the farmers is like going to the fair and you get all the arts and crafts and you get the merchants selling all their crap and then the food stands. So this is, that level. But again, farmers really should be very much more important in this because without the farmers, none of these people eat and so they die. In our system, we had farmland and we had crops. We grew things, yo. The Indians did squash, corn, I think potatoes, I think beans. Yeah, beans. So we were farming. So in their system, we had to be made low because they don't want to do any of the hard labor shit. They're gonna lounge around and write up shit that see when you're in power, you gotta write. Because that's what they do. They're just writing Bibles and making mandates. That's what I'm trying to get Indians to realize that you got to be at this level in your system. And the only way to be that is to create this system. Now, we're not going to do it like colonizer did it because he had an agenda. Our agenda is like, we just want our land back. That's all we want. You all have birthrights all around the world. We only have America, and that is our portion. You can't take it from us because you feel we have something you need. You have to compensate us like everybody else in every other place, on every other planet, in every other universe. Um, we read that already, I think. But we definitely don't have any time to do any more. I just want to leave on my beautiful linguistic map, but I can't find her. Where are you at, linguistic map? You're gonna read the Algonquins, the Powhatan Confederacy, all that stuff was lined up, and I just didn't get to it yet. Where's my beautiful linguistic map? There we are. So let's take a look at our land, American Indians. You want your land, call her by her name. Algonquin territory. Ojibwa, Blackfoot. Well, actually, this is the name of the tribes, but good enough. Good enough. Um, a beautiful linguistic map. And to get our footing, we have to stand on her because this was here before the states. So that's how we tell the world that's what I'm standing on, my birthright. My birthright is my land. I have highest authority on the land, and you can't just come up on my land and just deplete it of its resources. I have to live on this land. So it has to be mine forever. Forever. And your land is yours forever. But if you need something from my land, you have the resources to pay me for it, to compensate me. You can't just be a thief forever, because then I have to be the victim of your theft. And I don't have, that's not something that God decreed for me to be. I didn't do anything to deserve that. And the doctrine of discovery was denounced, so there's no justification, but there never was, even when the doctrine of discovery was announced. But I think I'll end here. I'm gonna stop my share, but I want you to keep our beautiful land in your mind. And I want Algonquins to see where we are, where we're located, because we've been taken off of our northeastern and southeastern shoreline land, and we got to get that back, because that's the beginning of justice for all Indians. All the other Indians were still here, and they really they we are too, but politically we're not spoken about. It's like a code of silence when it comes to Algonquins, because I guess the Iroquois are going to persuade the world that they're the new Northeast Woodland Indians, but you're not. We're still here. You just politically propagandize us as we're only in Canada. This will always be our land, always, as well as all of that Canada territory, as well as what's here over around the lake here. Excuse me. So once again, I thank you for watching. I wish you peace, health, wealth, your land back, your identity back, all the great things. Till next time, thank you.